Coming up on iPads in the Classroom, it's Video Physics and Graphical Analysis with Jim Reinerson. Hi, and welcome to iPads in the Classroom from TechEdge. I'm Guy Trainin, and this is Jim Reinerson, who's a science teacher and really has been playing with his iPad recently, trying to do some things around physics, so it's all yours.
Thank you. Okay, today I want to show you two programs for the iPad. The first one is called Video Physics, and the other one is Graphical Analysis for iPad. Both of these apps were developed by Vernier Software and Technology. Video Physics is an app that actually takes video movies and you can analyze them. I'm going to use one of the video samples that comes with the app, but you can import videos that you actually take. The one that I'm going to use is the basketball shot. And so there's a couple different tools that will help you actually get some data from this. The first tool is this double arrow. If you tap on that, then you can, if you have something in your frame that you know the distance of, you can actually highlight that. And so I'm going to take this circle and I'm going to bring it down to this meter stick that's at the bottom, and I'm going to tap it once. I'm going to move it over to what I know is a meter, and I'm going to tap it again. So now we have a reference distance. You also can change the quadrant. Math people love this, and so do physics teachers, but I can make my quadrant, my origin, any place I want. I'm going to make it at the basketball player's elbow. Then also what I'm going to do is I'm going to forward the video until the basketball is actually left his hand. And so I'm going to just move this a little bit. And now I know the basketball has left his hand, and so I know that the only forces acting on it are that of gravity. So if I tap this tool, that will allow me to collect some data. So I'm going to take the circle and I'm going to actually move it to the basketball, and then I'm going to tap in the circle. And what that does is it records that data point and it automatically moves the movie one frame forward. So then all I have to do is move my circle to the middle of that, tap in the middle, and then it records that data. So I think that you get the process. I'm going to just keep doing this until the basketball reaches the other side, collecting data.
So you're collecting data really frame by frame here.
Exactly. And so you can see the arc of the ball, and this is something that you'd use when you're doing projectile motion. And the thing that's hard for students to understand is that there's two motions. There's a motion in the X direction, and there's also a motion in the Y direction. So when I collect the data, then this program will allow me to graph it and show the students actually what it looks like. There I've collected the data that I want to collect, and so now if I hit the graph button, it'll actually show me a graph of the data that I have. But one of the things that I really like about this program, it will export this data into another program that I mentioned at the beginning, which is Graphical Analysis for iPads. And Graphical Analysis for iPads allows you to actually do quadratic regressions and linear regressions and actually look at the math behind that. So I'm going to tap on this, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to open this data in, and then it looks on my iPad for a program that will allow me to open it, and that's called Graphical Analysis. So I just tap Graphical Analysis, and now as you can see we have different graphs, and to me that's kind of confusing, and so I'm going to just look at one graph for now. So I'm going to tap that and I'm going to go to one graph. And then if I tap this icon, it shows me all of the different graphs that I can look at. And the graph that I want to look at to start with is the one that's the x direction in its position. So I tap on that, and I'm going to tap on x velocity and also y velocity to deselect those. And so if I look at this data, what I want the students to see is that the position in the x direction is a linear relationship. And so if I want to look at the math behind that, I just tap on the screen and drag. Oops. And I can select a portion of the graph that I want to actually look at. So if I tap on the number, then it gives me some options of how I can analyze that. And I think that that's a linear relationship, so I just scrolled it to linear, and I say add. And then it gives the equation for a linear line, which is y equals mx plus b. Well, what we plotted on the y-axis is position, so it's saying position equals the slope of this line times x, which is time, plus the starting position. And the slope in this case is 1.363, and that would be the velocity of it. So once the basketball player releases the ball in the x direction, that ball is traveling at 1.363 meters a second, and it doesn't change. And that's hard for students to actually kind of comprehend. If I want to look at the y direction, the y data in the position, then I just deselect the x, selected the y, and then tap that, and it is large. I can analyze the same portion that I did for the x, or I can change it. But if I touch that, then hopefully I realize that that's not a linear regression, but it's a quadratic regression. So I moved it to quadratic. I tap done, and I come up with the equation as y equals ax squared plus bx plus c. And in the physics world, that equation is distance equals 1/2 acceleration times time squared plus initial velocity times time plus initial position. So from these numbers, you can actually see what the acceleration of the object was, the initial velocity of what the object was, and the initial position of what it actually was. Okay?
And the other thing, I mean, there are a few ways to play with it, but this is really where the fact that this is a mobile device comes into play.
Exactly.
Because yes, we can get some of the sample videos, but I think it's a lot more exciting if we take it out there to, let's say, the football field or when track and field is practicing and take our own videos and look at the results and actually even have 3 people taking videos and potentially even from different angles and see how the angle really matters. I mean, you can play with the variables and really start thinking about how do you think about this from a scientific perspective? Where does error come from? Why is it different on my graph than your graph? Or, you know, when do we get more error and less error? So there's lots of possibilities. The minute you actually have a device that you can take with you outside and just do it.
And you know, you think about your students that might play soccer or might play volleyball and you say, hey, you know, during your practice, can I come and take some video of your volleyball practice? And then they actually analyze something of their teammates and themselves, kind of a natural buy-in, I think.
So we've talked today about video physics, and next time we'll talk about more things around science. We'll see you on iPads in the classroom.